Well, it's that time of the year again where we scan through all the games that were released and give our own little awards or rant about how that one game you love actually sucks. But jokes aside, even as the year had started, for some reason I didn't really have high expectations for 2024. Maybe it was because 2023 was such a banger with an insane list of games. But apart from a few games I really wanted to try, which, unsurprisingly, were not AAA games, this year was kind of a letdown. Let me pull this up real quick. Just compare the Game of the Year nominees from 2023 and 2024. I mean, both years did have a lot of sequels, but you'll probably understand where I'm coming from when I say that a lot of these games actually felt like new games back in 2023. The nominees this year just kind of felt bland. First of all, Shadow of the Erdtree is a DLC. It shouldn't even qualify in the first place. And then out of the other 5 games, honestly I'd say the most revolutionary was probably Balatro. But even then, not many critics would give a middle finger to the big corporates in favor of one guy's fever dream. But enough sad talk, I mean, the intro section's long enough already. Let's move on to the unofficial, official awards for 2024. Oh boy, this one's really something. Honestly, this year was just so full of shit that I just wanted to say the biggest shame was the state of the video game industry. But the show must go on, and I probably had the wildest take that anyone could have. After considering everything, I'd have to choose Prince of Persia. And honestly, even while writing this, I thought this was probably one of the most unfair awards that I've ever given on this channel. But hear me out for a second. We all know that a lot of the once renowned game companies have turned to minimizing effort to maximize profits. And when you look at it that way, can I really say that these half-baked games are disappointments? If anything, the real disappointment's that I'm no longer excited for the vast majority of AAA games. Which is how I ended up with Prince of Persia. And it's not because the game sucks phenomenally. We both know there are better candidates for that. The reason why I keep bringing up Prince of Persia is because it feels like a death sentence to AAA Metrovanias. The game got good reviews. It was a generally well-polished game, which is a surprise for Ubisoft, but anyway, and it was an ode to better times. But even with most things done right, it just felt too expensive. With games like Hollow Knight sitting at $15, there's just no way a somewhat good Metrovania can get away with the $40 price point. So ironically, the very game that rejuvenated the genre somehow ended up as a pseudo-death sentence to it at the same time. And to me, that was a bigger disappointment than all those... I don't even want to call them games, whatever. When Balatro came out of nowhere, I felt like it was a beacon of hope for the game industry and the guiding light to the future games. Now I know that sounds like a fanboy's rant, but with its fine balance between strategic planning and addictive gameplay, Balatro found a way to keep my brain busy yet satisfied with those dopamine-inducing big numbers. I mean, look at those numbers fly. How can you not get addicted to this? But what really made Balatro special was that it was yet another one-man project that somehow found a way to shine and touch our hearts, giving hope to potential developers that with the right idea, you don't need a team of hundreds or $100 million budget to make a game that'll grab people's attention. And the cherry on top is that Balatro's developer Local Thunk has announced that Balatro's IP will never be sold to casinos or gambling companies. Wow, a developer that understands what people want. How long has it been since we've seen this? Indie games are really stepping their game up and teaching all those big game companies a lesson they forgot a long time ago.
It's stupidly simple, but somehow it keeps on getting lost. Studio made their game because they wanted to make a game that they wanted to play themselves. They didn't make it to increase market share, to service a brand. They didn't have to meet arbitrary sales targets.
Now I've kept saying that there were a lot of bad games this year, but even amongst all those games, there was one that really stood out. Concord is what you'd get if Godric the Grafted smoked too much low-quality meth and decided that grafting 100 dicks to his forehead would make him feel special. It's like the bathroom where Noah collected the feces from all the animals in the ark because he couldn't throw it out the window. And you might not understand why I'm calling it a cash grab from a conventional perspective, but if you think about it, it's yet again another death sentence to the AAA game dev world. Sony had poured a rumored $400 million into Concord because they desperately wanted a live service shooter game. If last year's Gold Digger robbed the users, this year's robbed investors and publishers. And I know that sounds like a good thing, and even though I did bash AAA games a lot today, it's not like I want to see every single AAA game erased from the face of the earth. There are still tons of talented developers out there that I believe can make great games with the right opportunity. and Concord is the kryptonite that cripples these opportunities. If massive investments continue to flop, why would anyone want to invest in new games? Investors and shareholders will just keep going down that path of 500 Call of Duties and remakes of remakes and lame gacha games and, cause you know what? It's the only thing that's continued to work from a financial perspective. In all honesty, I feel like it's the hardest year to choose a single game that's worthy of being called Game of the Year. I mean, I can go for what seems to be the apparent choice, but it just doesn't seem right to choose something that's not in the spirit of both my gaming preferences and the channel. So with that in mind, I think the modern gaming scene has constantly proven that the indie dev scene is where some of the most creative and beautiful games have been coming out. And if that means we get more games like Animal Well, I have little reason to object. Now to be clear, when I first heard that Donkey was gonna publish games, I honestly didn't know how to feel. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I stand by the argument that Donkey is very knowledgeable when it comes to games. It's just that he's even better at making post videos about them. But then you see all these famous creators and their questionable at best products, and you can't help but wonder, is that the future of creator-published games? Even at the last moment, Donkey did what he did best, post a meme video about the very game he was publishing.
Billy, what's the best animal?
Dog.
Animal Well has 6 different breeds of dogs. That's how you know he's not fucking around on this game.
But then the reviews for Animal Well started coming in, and I still think reviews are skewed to a certain extent because if they aren't, then why are all those hentai anime games overwhelmingly positive? But Animal Well was something different. Think about it like this. Imagine you're a YouTuber with over 7 million subs, and you've just launched your game publishing business. You obviously want to start on the right note, and then you see this guy that pitched a game that's like under 50 megabytes. If that's not a power move that asserts dominance, then I don't know what is. And if you think about it, that's exactly the point. A game doesn't need graphics requiring a $2,000 GPU and the latest ray tracing technology, or have 200 gigabytes of storage filled with empty walking zones. It just has to be fun and creative, which is why Animal Well is not just a good game, but a good game with a message. A message that's honestly a middle finger to all the companies throwing both their staff and gamers under the bus, with copy-pasted games that look all too familiar in exchange for some nice yearly bonuses. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Hope you have a happy new year and see you in the next one.